Hi, I'm Heather Peterson, the principal designer at Heather Peterson Design. We are based in Minneapolis and we work all over the country, mainly focused on whole home decorating and renovations. My path to interior design was a bit of a winding one. Design is my third career, but I would say that it is my first love. Interior design was everywhere when I was a kid, when I look back. My mother had a decorator, which I think is unusual considering we were fairly middle class. My grandmother had a decorator. We spent a lot of time at her home, and it was really just a fabulous house that has influenced my style for sure. But it never occurred to me that it could be a career or that it was a job that real people did. It was really expected in my family that you would go to liberal arts college and get a broad education, and that's what I did. And when I graduated, I moved to New York City. My first career was in advertising. I produced photo shoots. So there's always been this element of creating an aesthetic vision in sort of real time and space. So there are a lot of sort of transferable skills that I brought forward. My second career was in arts administration, and it really wasn't until we moved home to Minneapolis in 2010 that the seed of this current career was planted. It was the recession, and jobs in arts administration were few and far between, and big responsibility and low money. My kids were little, and I really sort of took my time through the job application process. And at the same time, we had purchased a forever home here, and I held back a budget so that I could decorate it. This was a big negotiation with my husband, and we landed on the extravagant fee of $5,000, which of course we in this industry know is a pretty good sofa. So it was also the heyday of blogs, and I was really stretching that budget and doing a lot of DIY, sewing my own curtains and all of that sort of thing. And I was sharing all of it. My blog had started as a mom blog and gradually morphed into a design blog. And at one point I actually separated it off to be its own thing. And I was sharing on Facebook. This was before Instagram. And my posts were starting to gain some traction, and people in my network started to reach out and say, hey, could I ever hire you? And that was the beginning. I can't imagine having gotten into this career in New York City. Everything is a little harder there, and it's a much sort of bigger pond. And so I think Minneapolis felt like a place where it was possible, especially since I am self-trained. And it was a much more manageable place to figure out the whole industry. So it's hard to imagine that if I hadn't come here, I might not have ended up in this career. Minneapolis has a really wonderful and robust design community. And for the size of city, we have local representation for really all of the top fabric and furniture lines. And our studio is actually based in the design center. So we can just run downstairs to Kravet and Tebow and pick up samples. And it really is wonderful, wonderfully convenient. Our tagline is Master the Mix. And I would say that mixing disparate elements together is really our superpower. People see it in our aesthetic, and more people come to us and say that our portfolio appealed to them because it doesn't look like the decorator just left. It feels collected and soulful, and what people often say is it looks like a real person lives there. There's individuality. And I really believe that the way that you create that kind of personal interior is to mix from across different eras, across different price points. We use a lot of vintage, and we really, I think we also really create timeless interiors in that way, because when you're mixing from so many different sources, it's really difficult to pin down when that design happened. We shop vintage everywhere we can find it. There are really wonderful vintage shops here locally, and I am out pretty much every weekend. They all also have Instagram presence. We'll buy things just right through Instagram. And I'm really friendly with a lot of the dealers, which is just a nice, works for everybody. We do also shop Cherish and First Dibs. Those tend to be a little more expensive and a little more challenging in terms of shipping, but just so much more inventory. And anytime we go anywhere, we stop along the way at antique stores. And the other piece that I'm thinking about a lot these days is the idea of future heirlooms. So what can we bring to the table that might be new to the client that their kids might want to inherit, or that someone will see value in down the line? I think the old model of the sort of Persian rugs that get handed down generations has gone away. Kids don't want the old things from their parents. But my parents had really wonderful things. And when we moved into this space, I actually asked my mom if I could borrow a coffee table that was in our living room when I was growing up. And it's, I don't know if you can see it, but it's here behind me. It's a beautiful burl wood coffee table. And we started talking about the idea of pre-inheritance. So, my parents should be around for quite some time, but I think there's joy for her in seeing how much I love having some of her things. And I love thinking about that for our clients as well. At home, my dining room chairs are classic Ames fiberglass chairs. I bought them on Craigslist a decade ago. They actually came out of the old 3M cafeteria. And when they were throwing them all away, a janitor took a bunch of them, understanding that they had value. And when I went to buy them, there were a bunch of them, and I really only needed 6, but I bought 8 because I have 2 kids, and I thought they would be great in some starter apartment. And this way, if they want, they can each inherit a set of 4. So it's just that kind of thinking. If they don't want them, no problem. They're classics, somebody will buy them. But I just really love the idea of buying things I love and setting up the next generation. So I asked my 14-year-old daughter, 15, just turned 15, what people would be surprised to know about me. And she said that you eat zucchini for breakfast. Which is true and apparently surprising. But from a design perspective, I think people would be surprised to know that actually people ask me and are surprised every time. I do not decorate for holidays, and I do not constantly redo my own house. I am actually in the midst of a once-a-decade refresh at home right now, but for the most part, I just believe in slow decorating. Get it the way you want it, and then you're done, and you don't have to think about it. Buy things that you love, that you will love forever, and leave it alone. The only issue with this is that we have a dog who is a notorious destroyer of throw pillows, which for a designer is like the worst behavior that a dog can have. And honestly, every time he destroys a pillow, I just think, why didn't I buy duplicates? Because while yes, it's an opportunity to bring in something new, and we see, new fabrics that we love all the time, it's such a careful balance. And when you get it right, you can just leave it be.